father raise his voice at his children?
No.
And you may have touched on it earlier, and if so, I apologize. But how, if at all, did Johnny communicate with his children when he was shooting a film?
Objection, foundation.
Were you?
All right, I'll sustain the objection if you want to go to foundation.
Fair, understood.
Okay.
Did you have occasion to observe? Were you ever with your brother when he was shooting a film?
Yes.
Did you have occasion to observe your brother communicating with his children while you both were there on set?
Yes. Yes.
So with that, please go ahead.
When Johnny was filming, most of the time, the family was with him. The family would travel and go. You know, it was like I said earlier. We would get a house and garden and all of that to make sure that there was a home. So his family was with him most of the time.
What about when the children got older and they started going to school? Did that change in any way?
It changed in that they didn't want to disrupt the children's lives when they were going to school. So if Dad had to go off and go work and the children stayed home, this is where we get into, we still maintained a home for the family wherever he was filming, because they would, if they had the opportunity to come back and forth. But at the same time, Johnny would travel back every 2 weeks, to see his kids.
And when you say he would travel back, who was it who made those travel arrangements?
I made the travel arrangements.
Did you have occasion to observe Johnny interact with the mother of his children, Vanessa Paradis, over the 14 years they were together?
Yes, I did.
Would you please tell the jury what you observed about the interactions between Mr. Depp and Vanessa? This is directly...
I'll allow observations. I'll overrule the objection.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. What did you observe about Mr. Depp's interactions with the mother of his children?
They were a great couple. I mean, first you could see that they were friends. They were happy together. They got along great. It was a happy, normal couple.
I'll sustain the objection at this point then.
Thank you.
All right.
Did you ever hear your brother yell at Vanessa?
No.
Objection.
Yes, sir.
It's not leading. To what extent, if any, have...
That wasn't the question, Mr. Chair.
Of course, the main objection.
Okay, I'll sustain on that objection. Next question.
What, if any, violence did you observe between...
I'll go ahead, finish your question first.
Well, if I think you're going to sustain the objection, perhaps I should read...
Maybe we should move on, yes.
Okay. All right. Did Vanessa ever claim that Johnny ever physically abused her?
Objection,
No.
foundation, calls for hearsay.
All right. Hearsay objection.
And 404.
It's not offered for the proof of the... It's what she observed, what she heard. She was the personal manager, Your Honor.
That would be hearsay. I'll sustain the objection. Thank you.
Did there come a time when Johnny and Vanessa separated after 14 years?
Yes.
How would you describe their relationship today?
Same objection, 404.
All right.
And calls for hearsay as well, and foundation.
I don't think it calls for hearsay, Your Honor. She's his
I
sister.
understand, but it's a character evidence issue, so I'll sustain the objection.
Who is Amber Heard?
My brother's ex-wife.
When did you first meet Amber Heard?
I first met her when she came to the office for casting on Rum Diary, probably late 2008, I think, somewhere in there.
Did you see Miss Heard on set?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you observe?
When she was working on set, I mostly observed, some of the, I was there for some of the scenes, and in between, she was a bit sort of like, standoffish, had all, people, coming around her, but I don't really have that much time with her on set.
When was Rum Diary actually released?
2011,
Was Johnny in that movie?
yes.
What role, if any, did you have with respect to Rum Diary?
I was one of the producers.
And after seeing Miss Heard on the set in 2009, 2010, when was the next time you saw Miss Heard?
I think the next time I saw her was we were promoting Rum Diary towards the end of 2011, I think. I was not able to go on the full promotional tour where we do screenings for people around the country. But I was able, because my mom was sick, but I was able to attend the one in Los Angeles. So I saw her at that event.
What did you observe? So you attended the premiere?
I attended the premiere and the dinner afterward, yes.
Would you please describe for us what you observed at the premiere?
At the dinner,
At the dinner.
because I sat outside at the premiere. I didn't actually watch the movie. I'd already seen it. I sat at the same table with...
We are going to pause the testimony right there. Don't worry, you will not miss any of this testimony. But I do want to bring in two special guests, legal analyst in St. Paul, Minnesota, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor Jack Rice, and joining us now, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor in the state of New York, Karen Charrington. Karen, thank you so much. I know that you've not been on this time slot with me before. Greatly appreciate you joining. Let me start with you, if I could, please. This witness, and let's talk about the purpose of this witness, because as Johnny Depp's sister, she's told all about his relationship with his mother, the relationship he has with his children. How is that relevant or admissible in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I believe, they're using this witness as a character witness for Johnny Depp to show his temperament, the type of person he is. I was a little concerned about hearing that he grew up in an abusive home, which could be potentially be used against him. But this witness is more so coming in as character evidence to show that he did not have the temperament to be abusive as his ex-wife is claiming. So I think if the attorneys can sort of bring in her testimony along with the other evidence, it would be helpful to try to show his personality, character, and so forth.
And Jack, always happy to have you on my show. You know that. Tell me about these objections, though, because the ones that have really been sustained are the 404 objections. So tell us what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there's a couple of things going on with her attorneys. First of all, you're trying to break up flow. Anytime you can stop the other side from really getting on a roll, that's always going to be a piece of it. But there's the other pieces of it too, right? Sometimes what you're getting in are things like character evidence. You're also trying to get in hearsay, trying to get everything else from everybody else through this person. Because remember, in the end, what his team is really doing is she is Johnny Depp by proxy. I mean, she just is. That's what they're really trying to do, so they can run everything through her. What you're saying is the other side, her team, is simply saying, you can't do that. And the judge is sustaining most of those objections right now.
Right, and by doing it through her, I think that, this really boils down to a credibility issue. Who is this jury going to believe? And we're going to break that down a little bit more later on. But first, we do need to take a break. When we come back, you will not miss any testimony. We're going to take you back to court where Johnny Depp's older sister is testifying.
see anything here. Clear as day is my 18. Yeah.
Join Calibrate.com.
Day one of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, a defamation lawsuit. On the stand is the older sister, Johnny Depp. It's the first witness of the day. You've not missed any of her testimony. Let's take you back.
So I saw Johnny and Amber, you know, they were seated together. I saw them talking quite a bit, and she seemed very friendly that night, yes.
Did there come a time when you learned that Johnny and Amber were romantically involved?
Yes.
When was that?
I don't recall exactly. I know it was sometime after the Rum Diary premiere.
To what extent did you have occasion to observe Johnny and Ms. Heard together early in their relationship?
I would see them. There were times when she would come and you know, visit our mom, you know. I would see her then, I would see the two of them then. I didn't really spend a tremendous amount of time with her.
Had you formed any impression of Ms. Heard at that time based on your observations?
I did. I did. Look, I didn't know her very well, and I would spend time. Like I said, she would come to my mom's house. I sat with her and my mom.
Object on 404. What was your impression of Amber?
Based on her observation, she's describing what she observed, Your Honor. I don't think that's right, Your Honor. I think she's describing what she observed.
Right. We want to approach for a moment. We'll step.
All right, we want to take in some expertise from our guests while we are on a break. Still with us, we have Jack Rice, Karen Charrington. Jack, let me start with you, please.
Anything to make him look like a decent person, they want to kill on sight. You notice that. They are threatened. Oh my God.
Character evidence and what is admissible versus what isn't admissible. What Johnny Depp's attorneys are trying to do is to get in that his, not just about his reputation, but the kind of guy that he is and the experience that the guy has and all of the various things that generally one would say are inadmissible at this point. You're trying to sort of slide in through this witness. I keep using sort of Johnny by proxy because you almost want Johnny to be able to say this himself about himself. But if you can get somebody else to do it, it not just bolsters credibility of Johnny Depp, that's what you're trying to do, but you're also trying to get it from a third party. A sister, yes, but a third party nevertheless. But the problem is there are limitations as to the admissibility of 404, not just bad evidence 404B, but 404 as it applies to character.
And Karen, as we're watching this, I mentioned the credibility because at the heart of this defamation trial, there are allegations of domestic violence by both parties. And so really the credibility of the witnesses, of the plaintiff, of the defendant are going to come into play. How do you think the jury is reacting to seeing Amber Heard and Johnny Depp sitting in the courtroom as they're listening to this evidence?
I mean, well, you know, in any jury trial where you have a witness who is related to one of the parties, you have to take into account that the jury may not see this witness as 100% credible. They may believe that this witness will testify and say anything he or she needs to say to assist their relative. So, yes, they're going to use this witness to bolster Johnny Depp's credibility and character, but at the same time, you know, I'm always cautious about putting a relative on the stand in terms of how much will a jury believe and take 100% as credible what this witness is saying on the stand. So oftentimes, you know, you have to be careful with putting on a relative. Of course, you're putting this witness on to try to, you know, show the jury what type of person Johnny Depp is, but whether or not the jury will take her at face value because of the relationship is something we'll see at the end of this trial.
You're right, because they may say it's his sister. Of course she's going to say all of those things because, again, it's his sister. We're going to take you back into the courtroom. We got through the sidebar. You haven't missed any of her testimony.
All the time frame, I believe they had moved downtown to the Eastern Columbia building, but I don't remember exactly when that was.
What type of structure was the Eastern Columbia building? Was that a freestanding house or was it apartments?
It's apartments, and he had the penthouses on the top floor.
How many penthouses did your brother own on the top floor of the Eastern Columbia building?
I think it was 5 apartments.
Do you know who lived in those 5 apartments when your brother and Miss Heard went to live there?
I know. I know who lived down there. I know Isaac, a friend of Johnny's named Isaac, lived down there. I know Amber's friend Rocky and her boyfriend lived in one of the penthouses. Amber's sister Whitney lived in one of the penthouses.
When you say Rocky, are you referring to Rocky Pennington?
Yes.
And was her boyfriend Josh Drew?
Josh Drew.
Did Rocky Pennington and Josh Drew pay any rent to your brother?
No.
What about Miss Heard's sister Whitney? Did she pay any rent to your brother?
No.
Do you know why your brother allowed them to live rent-free at the ECB?
Because they were.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Foundation, we asked, do you know why? So if she knows, she can answer. I'll allow it over.
She was his personal manager.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Did you arrange for handling a lot of your brother's bills?
I would give them to the business manager.
Yeah.
But I believe they were Amber's family and friends. That's why he let them live there.
How often did you see your brother when he was living with Miss Heard at the ECB penthouses?
We didn't see him as often. I didn't see him as often. He pretty much stayed down there. He didn't come back, towards where we were in West Hollywood very often unless he had a reason to.
And on those occasions when you did see your brother, what observations did you make?
He was always in a hurry when he was able to come back. He could never sit and spend the time, it felt like he was always trying to, get back downtown. He just seemed so much sadder. He did not seem himself. He was always, his person was much, just sadder.
In that time period, when your brother and Miss Heard were living at the ECB, did you have occasion to observe them together?
On occasion.
Would you please describe for the jury what you observed on those occasions when you saw your brother and Miss Heard together?
I mean, there's different occasions. I've seen them together when they've come into the office. I mean,
when you saw them together, did they appear to get along?
Objection, Your Honor. Vague and leading.
All right, I'll sustain this to leading. All right, next question.
Still a lot of objections. Now, we're going to take a pause. You're not going to miss any of this testimony. We do have to take a break, but when we come back on the other side, we'll take you right back where we left off.
Go to prettylitter.com.
I'm Chanley Painter in Fairfax, Virginia for the Johnny Depp defamation case. And this is Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Thank you for joining us. We want to get you right back into the courtroom in the state of Virginia. As Chanley Painter just mentioned, this is Johnny Depp. Says Amber Heard, a defamation case, a civil case. Let's get you back to listen to more testimony. You haven't missed any of the testimony from the sister of Johnny Depp.
Or witnessed them arguing.
Objection, leading.
All right, I'll sustain it. I'll sustain as to leading.
Did, in your capacity as Johnny's personal manager, do you know whether your brother and Amber ever traveled together?
Yes, they did travel together. There were, there were times when, when Johnny had to go do press or film, they traveled together.
What type of travel arrangements did you make for the two of them when they traveled together?
We would get a private plane that took them to whatever the destination was, and make sure that we had, the hotel accommodations taken care of. Part of what we did was to always make sure that we anticipated, everything. So we would do the travel, the hotels, cars, drivers. I would make sure that there was an extra hotel room, for trips when they would go.
Why did you make sure there was an extra hotel room when Johnny and Ms. Heard went on trips together?
Because they're...
Objection to the extent that the answer calls for hearsay.
All right.
I don't believe it does.
Okay, that's fine. You can answer, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. I booked the extra hotel rooms because if Johnny was at home or anywhere like that, he was able to, if they argued, he was able to leave the room, leave the argument, and go like he's always done and hide in a different room to get away from it. When they were traveling for, the different reasons for press or whatever, and we booked the hotel rooms, I wanted to make sure that there was an extra room, because it wasn't unusual, for them to have an argument. So I wanted to make sure that there was an extra room.
Did your brother ever have occasion to use that extra room that you booked for him?
Yes.
Objection, foundation.
All right. I'll sustain his foundation if you want to lay a foundation.
I think the foundation was she made all of the travel. Well, I can actually lay it through some other questions as well. She was personal manager. Whose idea was it to book an extra room for your brother when he traveled?
It was my idea.
And why did you do that?
It was my idea because, I saw a repeat happening in life when we were kids and arguments and fighting would start to happen. Our first thing was to go and hide and, get away from it. And since I recognized what felt to be a pattern that was a repeat pattern from his childhood, I wanted to make sure that there was a place that he could do just that.
Mr. Chu, the question was, did Mr. Depp ever use the extra room? And the objection was foundation. So if you want to lay a foundation of how she would have known that he used that extra room, and if not based on hearsay, that's the issue.
And I'm going to strike that. It's not responsible.
All right, I'll strike that. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you ever book Did you book your brother's hotel accommodations during the 14 years when he was with Vanessa Paradis?
Yes.
Did you ever book an extra room when he was with her?
Objection leading.
No.
Overrule, I'll allow that one. Go ahead.
If you could repeat it, I don't think the jury heard that.
I'm sorry. No, I did not.
Did you ever hear your brother and Miss Heard argue?
Objection calls for hearsay. Also, the
Oh, I'll overrule that. I'm good.
So you may answer that.
No.
Did you ever see or hear any physical altercation between your brother and Miss Heard?
No.
What can you tell us about what you did observe of your brother and Miss Heard together?
What, to me, when I saw them, to me, he was always trying to make sure, he was always trying to make her happy. He always made effort to sort of make her happy. I think she had a very, she has a very strong personality. And my brother's personality came off much more soft at that point, to me.
Did you observe any occasions in which Miss Heard was nice to your brother?
Yes, I've seen her be nice to him.
Would you please explain that?
I've seen her be nice in offering to, bring him a drink or, get him whatever. I mean, just a typical nice. I've seen that.
Have you witnessed any occasions on which Ms. Heard wasn't nice to your brother?
I have, actually.
Would you please describe those to the jury?
Yeah. We had, I had on one occasion, because this one really stayed with me. On one occasion, I was at the office and I'd had a meeting with Dior, who had wanted to sit with Johnny and talk about, working together. And Amber had come in and asked if she was interrupting us, and we said no, and we weren't supposed to really talk about the meeting with anyone. But Johnny told Amber that I had just had a meeting with Dior, and that they were interested in him. Her reaction to that was she was in disbelief and sort of disgust, because she said, Dior, why would Dior want to do business with you? They're about class and they're about style, and you don't have style. So it was the insulting kind of taking away that one moment, that insult is there. I've seen the insults multiple times, actually.
What, if anything, did you hear Ms. Heard say about Mr. Depp's physical appearance?
She called him an old fat man.
How did he respond?
I believe he's heard her call him that himself.
Now, Ms. Dombrowski, I'd like to ask you about a specific event that is relevant to this case. And just for the background, I'll say, did there come a time in 2013 when your brother was working with Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones on a documentary?
Yes.
Were you present?
Yes, I was present at the.
Was Ms. Heard there as well?
Yes.
If you could please tell the jury how physically close you were, or how far you were from Ms. Heard while the three of you were on the set.
I was right next to her. They had gotten there, and I was close enough that I hugged her, and was standing next to her.
This is Christy Dombrowski, the older sister of Johnny Depp, still testifying. You're not going to miss any of her testimony. We do have to take our breaks, but when you come back, we're going to resume right where we've paused.
B15.
Let's get you back inside that Virginia courtroom where the first witness of the day in the Johnny Depp defamation suit against Amber Heard is his older sister. She's 2.5 years older. She describes all of the relationship between him, and Amber that she observed. You haven't missed any of her testimony.
We're hugging her. What, if any, marks or physical injuries did you see?
I didn't see anything.
Did you observe your brother's interactions with Ms. Heard while the three of you were on the set?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you observe her doing?
They were fine. She was laughing and happy and holding his hand and, leaning on him, hugging him.
Did your brother hug him back or hug her back?
Yes, but it was mostly her hugging.
And switching subjects from that time on the set, did there come a time when you learned that Johnny was going to marry Miss Heard?
Yes.
And this is a little complicated, so I'm just going to ask you in a narrative form. I understand there was a wedding, and then there were a couple of ceremonies. If you could just please describe that to the jury.
There was a wedding celebration that was put together on the island. So they had a wedding ceremony on the island. But prior to going to the island to do that, they actually got married in Los Angeles because they had to get married in Los Angeles because they couldn't get married, paperwork, etc. On the island. So they got married in LA.
How did you learn that they were going to get married?
We were already working on the celebration part, and I knew that the date was at some point they were going to pick a date to try to get married in Los Angeles. But I didn't know the actual date that had been decided until he called me, which was pretty much right before the date.
What was your reaction upon hearing from your brother that he was going to marry Miss Heard?
I was scared. I was devastated, actually, that it was going to happen as quickly as it was being pushed for. I actually tried to talk him into just waiting a little bit longer, just a little bit, and not rushing.
Why did you want him to wait a little bit longer?
There had been conversations about a prenuptial agreement that had been going on for a while. And as the date was approaching, for the island ceremony, there was no success in the prenuptial conversations, and I knew it was important. His representatives had explained the importance, and I knew it was important to him for his children. And we were rushing to do something without his children being protected.
Specifically, if you could explain to the jury what involvement you had in those discussions about a prenuptial agreement.
Objection, just foundations and discussions with them.
She's testified about her.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think, what was your involvement in the discussions involving the prenuptial agreement?
Mostly it was, I spoke with the attorneys and the representatives so that they explained the importance of it and they explained the reasons behind it.
Just right here saying.
I'll allow it.
That means you can keep going.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So that we could have further conversation and with Johnny and there was an attorney that they coordinated with for Amber. So that was where I was involved in the coordinating that part.
Which side wanted a prenup?
Johnny's side wanted a prenup.
And I believe what you said may have gotten lost. Why did Johnny's side want a prenup?
Well, the prenup was to make sure that his children were protected.
That's Jack and Lily Rose?
Jack and Lily Rose, yes.
We are getting close to the top of the hour, so I want to take this opportunity. Still with us, we have two different attorneys, Jack Rice and Karen Charrington. Jack, let me start with you. What, if anything, has stood out to you as you've watched this testimony of witness number one?
Well, I got to be honest, I love it from the perspective of the Depp camp, because what you get here is a very broad-based testimony, right? What you're getting is a lot of this sort of very day-to-day contact from a business perspective, but also the relationships between Johnny and various people. And at the same time, you're starting to see that relationship between Johnny and Ms. Heard. So you see that piece. But what you also get is the backstory, right? When she started talking about the abuse from her mother and from their mother and what that did and his reaction to that, how he behaved. That was really interesting that came in. This starts to go to character, but it started to work. And so the broader that perspective, the more you get in, the more I think that the Depp camp likes it.
And Karen, same question to you. What, if anything, has stood out to you?
You know what? I didn't like her testimony too much for the Depp camp, only because, you know, she brought out some issues that may raise concerns for the jury. So, for example, when they would travel, she would get an extra room just in case there was an issue for him to escape. Will the jury accept that, or will they think that maybe there was a volatile relationship there? When she testified about her concern when they were going to get married, you could see that there could have been some bias there. So could the jury now see her as someone that could be against Heard and may not be giving the most credible and honest testimony? So I'm not so sure how I feel about this testimony, but I do think that, you know, on cross, you know, they'll have to get into more of her opinions. But I wasn't a fan really of this testimony, so we'll see how it plays out.
And there was only one little piece where I agree with you. When I heard her say something, I said, uh-oh, don't make it sound to the jury like you don't like Amber Heard. All right, thank you so much to Karen Charrington. Stay with us. We're going to take you back to court on the other side here on Court TV.
On top of all this mess, Gilbert Godfrey has also just passed away. It was announced, and that is like a spike in the damn chest right now. Wow. That's got to take a work process. Washington Post article will be connected to Johnny because her entire case is, quote, it never used his name. So no damages. Depp's sister says it clearly was about Depp. It damaged his career and his business, and she's his business manager. Yes, and also if she is questioned about it, she's only been with Johnny during that time, and then someone after Johnny. She's gonna have to name someone about who that article was about. She ain't got no one.
B200 now.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are monitoring developments in several cases at this hour, including can't-miss testimony from Johnny Depp's defamation case against his ex-wife, Amber Heard. His sister is on the stand, and we will take you back to her testimony shortly. And in Oregon, the murder trial for romance novelist Nancy Brophy continues today. Testimony is underway, day 6. Court TV is there, monitoring for any breaking news. Now, we're also on verdict watch in the attempted murder trial of the former Olympian Michael Barazone. The jurors have asked 2 questions so far, and we will certainly go live to that New Jersey courtroom if and when they have a decision. Right now, though, we want to take you back to court in Virginia. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, the defamation trial. On the stand, Krista is the older sister of Johnny Depp. Now, you haven't missed any of her testimony. We hit the pause button. We're going to take you back to where we left off at the beginning of this hour.
Did Ms. Heard ever sign a prenup?
No.
Why not?
Amber didn't sign it.
Did you end up, despite your misgivings, did you end up attending the wedding or the ceremony between your brother and Ms. Heard on the island in the Bahamas?
Yes, I did, but I also attended the actual wedding in Los Angeles.
And that preceded the celebration in the Bahamas, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you have occasion to speak with Ms. Heard either at the ceremony, the formal ceremony in Los Angeles, or the celebration in the Bahamas?
I did. At the actual ceremony in Los Angeles, they had the ceremony at our mom's house, and at that ceremony, I didn't have occasion to really speak with Amber. Rocky, and Whitney, I don't believe wanted necessarily to speak with me on that day. I did, after the ceremony was done, I was standing not far from them, and they were having a conversation. They were having a conversation actually about, should they leak the information that they'd already gotten married at the house to the press, so that maybe they didn't have to worry about the island when they did the celebration. And Amber actually reached out to me and said, because I was standing 7-8 feet away from her, asked my opinion, what I thought about that, which I basically said I didn't know why they would do it, since all the information for the island was already out, and that it wasn't going to help them. I didn't know why they would want to leak it at all, but it was up to them. I saw her on the island as well, but on the island she was actually extremely friendly when I got there, because if I'm honest, I debated going. I didn't really want to. I almost didn't, but I took my dad. Dad wanted to go, and I wanted to make sure that I showed up anyway, because I wanted to make sure that, honestly, that my little brother would know that I was always going to be around no matter what. But Amber was extremely friendly and thanked me for coming to her special day. You know, it was a very big day for her.
Can you remember any other interactions you had with Ms. Heard or your brother on the island at the celebration?
Interactions on the island? Not really.
And when was the next time you saw Amber Heard after the celebration on the island?
It would have been when she came back from Australia.
And I will get to that, Your Honor. Is it possible for us to take a very quick break?
Sure, you still have quite a bit of direct left, I assume?
I do have a fair amount, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't we go ahead and have you take your afternoon break of 15 minutes, okay? Again, don't do any outside research and do not talk to anybody about the case. I know you're going to...
This hour, we have two guest legal analysts still with us in St. Paul, Minnesota, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor Jack Rice, and now would like to welcome in Los Angeles, California, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Nima, Jack, I'm so happy to have you both on together. I have you both frequently, but never at the same time. So let's have a great discussion about one of the things that viewers are asking, and that is, Nima, why is this trial in Virginia? We know that neither of these stars live in Virginia. In fact, Chanley spoke with some of the viewers who were excited because Johnny Depp, Amber Heard were there in their local community. A lot of people coming to try to get into that courtroom. How is it proper for this to have been filed in Virginia?
Well, Ashley, this is forum shopping. We know that Depp filed originally against the Sun in Europe because the defamation laws are more favorable there. So there were three potential venues or jurisdictions here in the United States. Here in California, of course, where Amber Heard actually wanted a case to be heard. Her attorneys tried to transfer it here because this is a very free speech friendly state, and the laws would be more favorable in a defamation defense case. Second would be New York, where the ACLU allegedly helped Amber Heard write that op-ed. But we ended up in Northern Virginia, where the Washington Post is actually located because, of course, that piece is the reason Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard for defamation.
All right, so there's the venue. I love having you both on because I can throw anything out there. You all are on it and know it. Jack, talk to us now about the reality of what Johnny Depp has to prove if he is to prevail in this case in a defamation lawsuit.
Absolutely. This is different than the case in Britain, the case against the Sun. This is a case against Amber Heard directly. And in the end, what Johnny has to prove that not only did she lie, but she knew she was lying. So this is actually a higher standard than the Sun really had to establish as well. So this is a much different circumstance under all of the things that we're saying. And then in addition to that, we can look at what's going on with the Sun. That was before the bench. In other words, before a judge. This is before a jury. So in other words, what you're really trying to see here now is that you're trying to sway this jury. And so you're trying to move this number of people. A lot of civil cases, you might actually see a judge making the rulings, a judge actually making decisions. In cases like this, in defamation cases, this is a little bit different. The standard is high. It's a little bit different. But again, is it a second bite at the apple? Dare I say it? Kind of, but different.
Right, it is different, but, you know, and to that point, the other thing is she never names Johnny Depp in the op-ed. That's one of her defenses, right? I wasn't even talking about him. Let's go back into court. Gentlemen, stay with me. Again, we're going to pick up where we left off with testimony from the sister Christy.
And when we took the break, I think you had just testified that the next time you had seen Ms. Heard was when she had just returned from Australia.
Yes.
What, if anything, did you discuss with Ms. Heard when she returned from Australia?
We met for dinner, a late dinner, and she was telling me that she and Johnny had a fight in Australia, And I was trying to talk to her about the idea that that kind of fighting is not normal. It's too much, you know. It's not okay. But she told me that I needed to basically get down off my cross and mind my own business. She said that Johnny liked that she was feisty. You know, she was feisty, and then he loved it. And that Jerry Judge and I needed to stay out of her marriage. So that was the basic conversation.
Did you respond at all when Miss Hurd told you to get off your cross?
I just kept saying that fighting is not normal. This kind of fighting is not normal.
How close were you to Miss Hurd when you were having this conversation?
We were right next to each other, right? Like right here.
Did you see any marks or any discoloration on her face?
No.
Now, Ms. Dombrowski, I'd like to shift gears again and ask you about the period in April and May of 2016. If you could please let us know, as of April 2016, what was the state of your mother's health?
Excuse me. Mom had been, she had been in the hospital for quite some time, and like a long, steady pace from November. So by April, she was, we knew that she was towards the end of her life. So that's what April basically was, and it went into May. In May, we gathered everybody to come say goodbye to her.
How often, if at all, did you visit your mother in April 2016?
She was in the hospital, so I was with her pretty much every day. I was a 24/7 when I wasn't, you know, at the office or something, you know.
Did you ever see Johnny at the hospital?
Yes.
How often did you see Johnny at the hospital in April 2016?
I don't know how often I saw him. I mean, he would come and see her, you know, regularly. Even before that, when there was a period we were trying to help her communicate, and he, you know, brought in, you know, different type tools, pens, pencils, you know, drawing, crayons, just to try to help her communicate. He came as often as he could. He was there quite a bit.
And when you said you called the family together in May, would you please explain what you meant?
We were told by the doctors that Mom was at a point where there was nothing else that we could do for her, and so that we should start calling anybody that wanted to, you know, come and you know, spend a little bit of time and say their goodbyes. So we did that. We did that in May.
And moving ahead to May 19, 2016, what was your mother's condition that day?
She was basically in a coma. She was medicated and just on machines, life support, where it was, you know, slowly going away on May 19th.
How do you know that?
I was with her.
Did you see your brother in the hospital that day?
Yes.
What happened the next day, May 20th, 2016?
Well, Mom passed away that morning. We had all the family was there. Johnny was there with his kids until the wee morning hours of May, you know, May 20th. My kids, my sister, we were all there spending our last bits of time, and everybody else had gone home. And and Mom passed away probably a few hours after that, maybe 5-6 hours after that.
Who was with your mother when she passed?
I was.
Who, if anyone, told Johnny that your mother had passed?
Sorry.
Take your time.
I did. I called him and I called my our other siblings to tell them.
And I'm sorry, I know this is painful. How did Johnny react when you told him that your mother had passed?
Well, he was sad, but there was there's a relief that, you know, suffering is done. So he was mostly trying to make sure that I was okay and I was going to leave and not stay there and, you know, sort of take on everything by myself.
So we asked about how you were doing.
We're going to take a break right here. You're not going to miss any of the testimony. We just have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take you back into the courtroom. We've hit the pause button on the testimony from Johnny Depp's older sister.
Has other came from Not yet. Or actually, no, sorry, he did. You took me. No, it's been very busy. Unfortunately, with me, I've got to cut off here. Kiddos disrupting, so I have to end. There are plenty of other people that are doing the streams. They're way better than me. Way. I wish everyone the best of luck.